Hello and welcome to this podcast, Flourishe with Deepthi and me, Selva. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, and whatever you do, this is the show that helps you not just restart confidently, but also thrive and flourish in your second careers.
Thinking of restarting your career but don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place. In this season, we'll deep dive into the world of returnees by bringing you expert interviews, research findings, and HR perspectives. Being returnees ourselves, we will be sharing our experiences of restarting and success stories.
That's right. If you are wondering how to build that awesome resume or ace the dream job interview, and even get insider tips from HR on getting hired or not, learn how to not feel guilty, we've got all covered in this podcast.
Ready? Because it's time for you to flourish.
Tune in to Flourish, a one-of-a-kind podcast meant just for you returning to work.
I'm Deepthi Rao, a techie by profession, a mentor by passion, and a certified happiness coach.
And I am Selvakani Selvaraj, leadership coach, certified psychologist, and an erstwhile corporate HR expert. And we both are corporate professionals with over 40 years of collective experience. We know what it takes to build, pause, and rebuild a successful career, all the while playing multiple roles in our life as parents, caregivers, and family nurturers. Welcome to the 15th episode of our podcast. In our previous episodes, we've dug deep into the realm of guilt, how it shows up and how to liberate ourselves from its grasp. Today, we are bringing you this finale episode on living guilt-free, a conversation with the incredible Jacinta Jayachandran. Let's dive directly into this electrifying episode, Jacinta. I'm very curious about these workshops you run, how much ever you talk about skill ones, no? So I'm wondering if there is a crash course for next 2 minutes that you can tell us about what are those mantras? What is that secret sauce that can lead us to this unguilt? Actually, even the word unguilt has it. I've started to wonder, instead of saying feel unguilt, how do we move from being the position of guilt to generosity or being generous to ourselves and therefore with others? Tell us.
I think the first step is to recognize that you're operating from the space of guilt. I think that's very, very important. Don't make it look like this is normal for women. You know why we made it normal for her? Living with guilt is like living with a disease. Whoever told you that it is normal for women? It is not, buddy. It takes mental, physical, emotional, toll on her. It's not normal. So if you're having, excessive sense of guilt and there look at yourself, etc., take help, get help, move, right? I think that awareness building coping mechanisms, having support systems is really the first step towards, figuring this out as to, hey, am I doing okay? Also, look at both sides of, who people are around you. There are those who feed your guilt. Yeah. There are also people who affirm your guilt. Oh, I also feel like that. So we both are buddies, right? It's like, it's okay. You only have one person who's very mean to you in my life. So, I have three. I'm like, no.
Same pinch.
Same pinch, bilkul. It's like, so it's okay. Let's both wallow in self-pity and have lunch together in the office, and just generally vent out kind of stuff. It doesn't solve your guilt, right? It doesn't. You need to go and meet people who tell you it's not normal to have even one person who's causing you this kind of toxic guilt in your life. It's not on, right? And helps you build a capability and capacity to handle it. Rightly so, right? And everything, I believe, begins with a dialogue somewhere and highlighting that this is hurting me, this is troubling me, or whatever it is in life. I think it's very important. The third element I've always believed for women to be really successful, whether you're starting, restarting, rising, moving into leadership positions, is three important assets, and all of those assets are within you. A really sharp mind, be highly skilled, be known for what you do so well that it's as a professional, right? I think that's it's a competitive space, right? The second thing is have a very thick skin. You're going to be filled with feedback about everything, both personally and professionally. If you're going to let, all of that sort of take away your, energy and time, ability to look at yourself as a very competent person, you're in trouble. The last one is have a very large heart, And I think we genuinely are, most human beings are, right? You have a large heart. You can accommodate, we are people who will sit down. Like I had this restarter who had worked for 17 years and then took a 7 years break because her father was having cancer. Okay, so it was not a young mother, etc. She came to a restart program where all her peers in that group were all very young women who had maybe taken a break for motherhood, right? But she didn't say, I'm very senior. Why am I sitting with them? Oh, I'm feeling so miserable. She just sat through it. But she so beautifully through those programs positioned herself as a leader who's seen a lot of stuff, right? And truly everybody else started sort of going to her to look at how can she become a mentor in the workspace for them. And I can tell you, within few years, she's gotten promoted more often than most people because, she didn't lose any capacity, right? In that 7 years of being a primary caregiver to her father, she didn't. And to me, that is how you treat career comebacks. Not like there's been a loss or a deficit, but there has been reshaping of your capability, right? And, after, of course, now she is, I think, an SVP in her company. I don't really know. I was talking to her saying, how has the restart journey been? And she said, Jacinta, it doesn't make any difference to me. That 7 years to me was energy and time. When I came back, focus energy and time here because that's what I've always done in my life. That was a temporary phase, in which I had to do what I had to do. And she said, I've always been very focused on my career. I've always thought of it as a good way to live. I have both an occupation that's keeping me going, plus, run my personal life. Now, you just look at her and she says, I'm enjoying it. I'm totally enjoying it. I'm doing very well. And the break almost seems like some blip in the memory, not really like some major milestone that happened in her life. And she says, I'm very grateful I got that time to be with my father, right? And I think it's very important, therefore, to also see how we are looking at the gap and how the women themselves are forced to look at that gap, right? Because I think take gap or a sabbatical or anything is now going to become even more commonplace, not just with personal big milestones like marriage, motherhood, etc. I think generally, I feel there is going to be a time where people are going to say, next 2 years, I want to sort of, explore something else, right? Not really the mainstream career, I want to do something else. So I think we need to, first of all, don't make the gap like a big guilt trip for the woman. Okay, gap is, I think, fairly normal, right? It's not a deficit. It's actually a gain because she's done multiple things. And if she can figure out what did she not get by being at the workplace in terms of skilling herself and focuses on building that, she can make a very successful re-entry back. I mean, I completely believe in that. It's got nothing, to do, really, the gap mindset itself is something that we need to address.
We need to emphasize, true.
Really, the gap mindset itself is something that we need to address.
We need to emphasize, true. That's true. When you told me about being thick-skinned, right? I remembered my first mentor. He told me that be like the elephant. It was like, what? It was just like 23 years. He says, be thick-skinned like the elephant. Be you don't have to be so sensitive about what's going on all around you. But at the same time, have a keen observation. Though the elephant has very small eyes, it has very keen observation. And then always be hungry at office parties. To make it sound a little lighter. He said that. So which brings me to this next question, right? Where we always hear these stories where they say, I missed office dinner party because I had to go to my kids' annual day function, or the other way around. I couldn't attend my kids' PTM because I had an important meeting, like I said, right? Like the seesaw thing, what we were telling about. So can we really have the cake and eat it too? Is it really possible? I know everybody speaks a lot about it, and there's so much of debate that happens. Should we even be talking about it? But I think now, I really want to ask you this question. Can we have the
You can eat it at different points in time, I mean, frankly, I think that's what pragmatism really is about, right? Like, there is a day when you have a child's birthday and you will have a board meeting, and you'll have to figure out which one you prioritize, right? And you'll have to think through and say, where I would particularly take a view of this is, if the child is sick, unwell, etc., right? For me, it doesn't matter. This is my idea. I'm not even recommending and saying this is the only way to do it, but I'm saying my priority was, if my child was unwell, nothing else mattered to me. Nothing else mattered. Like I said, if he's going to lose football game because he scored a self goal, he's going to be very distressed about how can life be so difficult for a budding football star. I'm going to be there, right? So I recognize my child needs me when he calls me, when he comes and says, "Where are you?" Okay, especially in his preteen. Those were the something happened and you had to come back. Okay, so I would drop whatever else unless I was out of town, right? But even if I was out of town, I would be on call with him for as many hours that was needed, right? And and therefore, here and have this recognition. I think we are all very intuitive people, saying, "Hey, when does that child of mine really need me, and nobody else?" Right? But my son was very happy that I wasn't there evening snacks, because he could demand and get whatever unhealthy stuff he wanted from the person who takes care of my home, right? He'll say double omelette, this, that, whatever, that's all possible, right? If I were there, I'll say all of that. Correct. So I think it's important that we figure it out. But if a client is coming next week, right? And you've already been told there is a dinner meet with the client. And if there is a way in which you could plan that day and say, "Hey, every day I go to pick up the child. So on that day, can you do it?" Right? Now that is partnership. You don't have to say, "Oh, every day I have to pick up my child. That day also I have to only pick up the child." Right? I think that is a negotiation you do at home, saying that day there's something very important happening in off of the child, because then, see, you are being provided all of these fantastic networking opportunities, Deepti, within the office, right? And we don't pick up those. In fact, my favorite line is, I had a mentor who was by far the best networker that I know and continues to be. Okay. He never had coffee on his own. He always had coffee with somebody else, and never with the same group, by the way. He would always pick up somebody and say, "Come, chai pe chalte." His lunch during the week was always marked for a lunch meeting with somebody. One of it was with his boss. Okay. All the others were new joinee into the company, somebody here, there. And you have a calendar for lunch. We go with the same group with which we can crib about our mutual guilt, right? And come back.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And his evening tea for that 15 minutes was also with somebody else. He knew the pulse of the organization. By the way, the organization, a lot of people knew him as a listener, as a leader, as somebody who takes time out for you. And he did nothing outside of the office hours. We actually have 1 hour every day to network within our company.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. We need to remember that a lot.
And we don't do it.
We don't.
And that's why I question some of the fundamentals, right? Do I have to do a networking session to network, or should I do 1 hour every day network? Forget the 1 hour, maybe half an hour every day during lunch, right? I can tell Selva, we finished this podcast, but next week I'd like to do lunch with you. You in your house, me in my house. We can do a Zoom call.
Yes. Me too.
It is about figuring this out. That's why I can say, it's not like this or that. I think all of us women, there is this thing called the and leader, right? This and that. How do I make this and that? One day you will have this, on another day you will have that. but I don't have to consistently drop one in order to take care of the other. I think that's a matter of prioritization and ensuring that you're able to do it well.
Cool. I think we can go on and on about it, and we'll have to still find a way to wind down. But I had this curious observation. I'm just sort of bouncing it off with you, Jessie, is that we've talked about guilt from a point of negative connotation, if I may say, because it's not serving us well, right? But it just occurred to me now that if we were guilty about our own place in our life,
Yeah.
our own growth in our own life, our own evolution as human being, not just about jobs or parenthood or daughterhood and daughter-in-lawhood, but
Absolutely.
also to the world outside, to the society, about our own contribution to this
Yeah.
little bit of the drop in the ocean. If we
Yeah.
were guilty about that, perhaps it will strive us for growth and development. What do you think?
Selva, I'm also saying, why do we have to be always doing something? Imagine you were sent on this earth by, the universe to just be the person that you are. There is something dramatically beautiful about a Selva, about a Deepti, about a Jacinta, which we refuse to even recognize because we've gotten so busy doing something for somebody else, right? If you have the time and the energy to truly do it, I will welcome it. But the greatest gift you can give yourself is even treat yourself as a human being. How did we forget? How did we forget that? Shouldn't that be inducing guilt? It should be inducing such dramatic guilt in us saying, I'm not even being nice to myself. And when you're not being nice to yourself, do you really think you can be nice to somebody else? It becomes such a stressful, it doesn't feel effortless. But imagine you were really being just really nice to yourself. You treat yourself like a human being, right? Who deserves health, who deserves 3 meals a day, who deserves space, who deserves time, who deserves respect. It's beautiful. And believe me, when that comes, right, it automatically spreads into other spaces and places. You don't have to have this aura of sacrificed and, oh my God, that carried the burden of the universe on my shoulders. And
Yeah,
look
it's
where
like this: fill your own cup before you fill others, right?
if you don't have enough in your cup, what are you going to have enough in your cup? What are you going to pour out into the others? And sometimes I genuinely think when people are saying, I want to pay it forward, I'm like, nobody, no, pay inward. Pay inward first. Fill this up. Because when you do this from a space of, I'm in a good space, I think I can so positively influence another child or another person or another cause. It comes with grace, But when this is also empty, you're now seeking some kind of redemption from what you're doing over there, right? And if the redemption doesn't come there, right? And if the redemption doesn't come, right, you're going to feel even more vacant.
Yeah.
My humble submission through all of this is, if at all you're guilty, be guilty about not looking at yourself as this whole human being in need of care, need of respect.
Correct.
All of those things that we so willingly give everybody else. We did a small experiment, Selva, where we went and asked many women what's at the dining table. And they were so proud to tell us, this is for my son, and that's for my child, and daughter, and this is for my husband, and that's for my mother-in-law and my son. I said, okay, what's there for you?
The leftovers.
Not even on the days you have periods, right? Where you might have some craving. Like I have a big sweet craving. Okay. Even on that day, I'm not thinking, might be something I want to put in for me too. How did we come to a place where nothing at the table of your choice, but everything at the table of your making? That's what a life has become, right?
Yeah.
We make. What is there that I have made for myself? I think maybe a good question to ponder around.
Definitely.
Awesome.
And I'm so lost in these thoughts. I'm just gazing at Jessie, and I haven't even forgotten words, to be honest here. But thank you so much, Jessie ma'am, like how we call you
Oh.
at works. Thank you, Jessie ma'am. It was just absolutely wonderful. We've learned so much from you today, such lovely thoughts. And it's like we're finding it hard to really close this episode. But in the interest of time, and to have you back again, probably on another episode, on another topic, thank you so much for joining us and giving your precious time. We wish all the very best to you, to HopeWorks Foundation.
Thank you, Selva, for having me here. Thank you very much.
And all our love to those children and those mommies that you are, working with.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, we'd like to continue forever because Jessie is this terrific orator, like we said, but we'll need to close for now this series on guilt quote. Chew in and see how that lands on you. As you step into your future, may unguilt be your constant companion and guide you as you reshape your path of self-discovery. Let unguilt or generosity be the wind beneath your wings as you soar into your returnship. And be that reminder that returning is not about looking back, really, but about soaring forward.
Your feedback is our inspiration. Be generous with your ratings and help us reach many more to restart. Do visit hopskipjump.org to learn more and support HopeWorks Foundation in its initiatives.
Absolutely. And we really hope you like the podcast because this is a real space for conversations and authentic conversations at that. So do remember to like, share, subscribe to Flourishe Podcast.
Don't just survive, thrive and flourish in your career guilt-free.
Absolutely. Bye, folks. Until the next time in our next episode.